Hey guys, it's that time of the year where you get to go on my channel in a few days and write how wrong I am, because I'm going to make the predictions just like I did for the US Open last year. I'm going to do it for this year's Australian Open because today the draws came out. Now, the last time I predicted the women's draw, I made one of the most unbelievable picks in the history of tennis predictions, because before the tournament started, I predicted that Madison Keys, who was in a slump, was going to win the tournament, and she almost did. She reached the semis out of nowhere. She almost beat Sabalenka. So I am very gifted when it comes to picking matches for the Grand Slam. I'm just kidding. It is extremely difficult to predict tennis matches. A few years ago, there was this bracket challenge. I think it was through the Tennis Channel, and you could fill out the brackets before a Grand Slam tournament came out, and the winner would get like a gift card or something like that. And I never got even into the top 100. So it is incredibly difficult to pick results. However, I am someone that studies the game on a daily basis. I follow both the ATP Tour and the WTA Tour, not only the elite tournaments, but also the Challenger Circuit and the Future Circuit. And often you can have a pretty good idea of who's going to win a match based on momentum. And of course, if there's a mismatch in level, it's sometimes quite easy to predict the outcome. But having said that, if you take a look at the 32 seeds, both in the men's and the women's draw, I don't recall one scenario where all 32 seeds have made it through the third round of a Grand Slam. So there are going to be upsets, and it's going to be incredibly difficult to predict which players are going to cause the upset. All right, guys, I just filled out the draw. This took a while, and I really was very selective of which players I was going to pick in each round. And if I gave you my picks for each individual round, this video would be 3 hours long. So we're going to start at the quarterfinals. Let's start with the women's draw first. Now, before I give you the quarterfinal picks, I want to point out some great first round matches that you should definitely check out. So Swiatek against Kenin is going to be a great first round match. It's an absolute nightmare draw for Iga. Kenin, a former Australian Open champion, is playing a lot better. She is slowly getting back to her top form. And while this will be a tough test for Iga, I do think that she will prevail. Another great match that you should check out is Georgie against Azarenka, Rybakina against Pliskova, another really tough floater. Pliskova is still very dangerous. She's not on her top game, but still capable of causing a lot of damage. But I do think that Rybakina is going to prevail in this one. Raducanu against Shelby Rogers is also a fantastic match. Two great players. It's going to be interesting to see whether Raducanu can get back to her top form. I don't think she's quite ready yet. I think she's lacking match confidence. I do think that Rogers will prevail in this one. On the bottom half of the draw, we have Magda Linette against Caroline Wozniacki. While Wozniacki is capable of getting back into the top 30 or maybe even into the top 20, I don't think she has enough match confidence to take out Linette, who's seeded number 20. And possibly the best first round match on the women's draw is Osaka against Garcia. And of course, Osaka is highly capable of winning this whole tournament, but I don't think she's quite ready yet, and she had very bad luck drawing Garcia, who's a phenomenal player, also capable of going very deep. So I think that Garcia is going to take out Osaka in this one. And now on to the quarterfinals. I do have Swiatek against Ostapenko in the quarterfinals. Now you're probably wondering, Ostapenko, how did she make it there? Well, let's take a look. I have her winning her first round match against Birel. Then I have her taking out Martic in the second round. I have her taking out Azarenka in the third round. And then I have her beating Vondrousova in the fourth round. I feel like Ostapenko is playing with high confidence. She's playing well. I do think she's going to make it into the quarters. Now, Rybakina is expected to make the quarterfinals on the bottom portion of the top half of the draw, but I have a little bit of an upset here with Kalinskaya taking out Kazakhtina in the third round. And then on the bottom, I feel like the draw is quite comfortable for Pegula. She will make it into the quarters. And now let's look at the bottom half of the women's draw, and let's start out on top. And here I have a lot of upsets. So I have Fernandez in the quarterfinals. And you're probably thinking, Nick, why in the world would you put Fernandez there? She's going to cause a great upset over Coco Gauff. I've always believed that Fernandez is a player who has the potential to be in the top 10 or maybe even higher. She did reach the final of the US Open before losing to Raducanu. and she played absolutely phenomenal tennis at the Billie Jean King Cup, taking the title for Canada. And I just have a feeling that she's going to take out Gauff. She's going to take out Garcia, and that's how she gets to the quarters. Now, on the bottom half of the draw, I have Andreeva in the quarterfinals. And some of you might have never heard of this player, but I have a lot of belief in her. I do think that she could be a potential Grand Slam champion in the future. And let's take a look at how she's going to make it into the quarters. She's going to beat Pera in the first round, and here comes the big upset. Andreeva will take out Jabeur in the second round. I don't think Jabeur has been playing well toward the end of last year, and I feel like this is the right opportunity for a young player like Andreeva to cause a big upset. Then in the third round, Andreeva is going to beat Wang, and in the fourth round, she's going to beat Alexandrova. And on the very bottom, it's going to be pretty straightforward with Sabalenka making it to the quarters. I have Haddad Maia making it to the quarterfinals, and her road there is pretty straightforward. She's a player that's capable of possibly winning a Grand Slam title in the future. So I have her beating Linda Furvitova in the first round, a qualifier in the second round, Linette in the third round, and then Sakkari in the fourth round. So let me now tell you who is going to prevail past the quarterfinals. So I have Swiatek on top beating Ostapenko. I have Rybakina beating Pegula on the bottom. Out of these two, I am picking Rybakina to beat Swiatek. Of course, this is a complete toss-up. Swiatek might be a slight favorite in this match, but I just have a feeling based on the performance of Rybakina in that first warm-up tournament where she blasted everybody off the court. Of course, Iga did play phenomenally well in the United Cup as well, and that's why this is a toss-up. But I just have a gut feeling that Rybakina is going to come out swinging. She has an incredible serve, incredible forehand, and she's the type of player that can give trouble to Swiatek. And she's my pick to make it to the final on the top half of the draw. So the quarterfinals on the bottom half of the draw is going to be Haddad Maia against Fernandez. And here I have Fernandez going all the way to the semis. And the other quarterfinal on the bottom is Andreeva against Sabalenka, and I don't think Andreeva is going to be quite ready to take out Sabalenka. So I have Sabalenka versus Fernandez in the semis. I do think that Sabalenka will prevail. And I feel like this is a final that we're going to see a lot in the next 5 to 10 years. The two power hitters on the WTA Tour, Rybakina against Sabalenka, that just have the ability to blow opponents off the court. And while Sabalenka is a phenomenal player, I do feel like Rybakina is a tad more steady than Sabalenka, and that's why she's my choice as the 2024 Australian Open champion. And now on to the men. And just like I did for the women's draw, I'm going to give you the best first round matches that you should definitely watch. So Mannarino against Wawrinka is going to be a phenomenal match. Mannarino is such an exciting player, and it's such a contrast in styles. That's one that you should definitely watch. Bautista Agut against Shelton. I feel like anytime Shelton plays, there's a lot of excitement there. And again, there's a contrast in styles here. This is going to be a fun one. Berrettini against Tsitsipas, two high caliber players. On the bottom half of the draw, there's also Auger Aliassime against Thiem. In the top half, where I have Djokovic against Tsitsipas in the quarterfinal, and you're probably expecting Djokovic to come through. He has a qualifier in the first round and possibly Popyrin in the second, Echeverry in the third, and the round of 16 match against Shelton could be a blockbuster just like it was at the US Open. If you guys remember, Djokovic hung up the phone on Shelton. You can watch an older rant that I made about that match. And Shelton is a very talented player, but not quite ready to take out Djokovic in a Grand Slam. When we take a look at the road of Stefanos Tsitsipas, he's got a tricky first round against Berrettini, but I think Berrettini is going to be too rusty to be a threat to Tsitsipas. In the second round, Tsitsipas is going to beat Thompson. In the third round, he's going to beat Musetti. And in the fourth round, he's going to beat Fritz. Now, on the bottom of the top half, we have Sinner comfortably going through the draw. I don't see any of these players causing a threat to Sinner. Van den Zandschulp in the first round. Kachin in the second round. Wolf in the third round. Kachanov could be a tough match, but I do think that Sinner is going to win comfortably. And Rublev is going to have really tough matches, but I do believe that he will be a quarterfinalist. He's going to beat Saboth in the first round, Eubanks in the second, a very tough match against Korda in the third round, and a super tough match against de Minaur in the fourth round. But my gut feeling is that Rublev will be a quarterfinalist. Now on the bottom half and the top half of the draw, I do have some upsets, and I have Hurkacz in the quarterfinals. I do feel like Hurkacz is going to take out Rune in the fourth round. And no surprise here, I feel like Medvedev is going to comfortably go all the way through the quarters. And now let's look at the bottom portion of the bottom half, and I have Zverev in the quarterfinals. He's got a pretty good draw. He plays Kupfer in the first round, Kwon in the second, Lehechka in the third, and Ruud in the fourth. All matches that Zverev is going to win. Alcaraz's path to the quarters is going to be more challenging because he has Gasquet in the first round, which is not an easy opponent by any means, but I do feel like Alcaraz is going to win in straight sets. Then he has Evans in the second round, a very tricky Bublik in the third round, who's a crowd pleaser. I just saw highlights of a game in Adelaide where Bublik held serve by doing 3 drop shots in a row, and then an underhand serve followed by a between the legs forehand passing shot. So this guy is must-see TV. A lot of people find his style disrespectful, but when he's not doing his antics, he's a phenomenal player, possibly one of the greatest serves on tour right now. In my opinion, is definitely top 5. And he's going to be a threat to Alcaraz in the third round, but I do think that Alcaraz will prevail. And then in the fourth round, one of the worst opponents for Alcaraz is Tommy Paul, who he has lost to in the past, and this is going to be a big test, but I do feel like Alcaraz is going to prevail in this one. So the quarters on the men's side are Djokovic against Tsitsipas, Sinner against Rublev, Hurkacz against Medvedev, and Zverev against Alcaraz. So I have Djokovic beating Tsitsipas, I have Sinner beating Rublev, I have Medvedev beating Hurkacz, and I have Alcaraz beating Zverev. And you're probably thinking, Nick, this is so boring, but I do believe that there's a little bit of a discrepancy between these guys and the rest of the field, and I do feel like these guys are going to consistently reach late stages of Grand Slam tournaments. And I just can't see any of the other guys going through. Now, a lot of you guys are probably going to pick Sinner over Djokovic because he beat him in Davis Cup. But remember, this is best out of 5, and I do give an advantage in best out of 5 to Djokovic. There's nothing more difficult in the world of tennis than beating Novak Djokovic in a Grand Slam tournaments where you have to win 3 sets against him. So for that reason, I'm picking Djokovic over Sinner. I do believe that Alcaraz in the year 2024 will want to prove himself again because he has played a subpar second half of the year after Wimbledon. Of course, he still produced good results by reaching the semifinals of the US Open, the finals of Cincinnati. But everybody expects Alcaraz to be the next GOAT, and I think he's really pumped this year to show that, and I think he's going to be a threat to deal with going deep into slam, possibly winning 1 or 2 slams. So I have Alcaraz beating Medvedev in the semis, with the final being Djokovic against Alcaraz. And while I do think that Medvedev, Sinner, Alcaraz all have the capability of beating Djokovic in a Grand Slam tournament final, and Alcaraz has done it, Medvedev has done it, I don't think it's going to happen at the Australian Open because Djokovic is carrying that confidence from winning the ATP World Tour Finals, from winning Paris, from winning the US Open. He's the #1 player in the world, and he will be the 2024 Australian Open champion.